You Can Become a Hero by Orphan Account on AO3. Episode 7, Chapter 5, Look to the Sky. Silence greeted the two as they entered the building. The basic architecture of the skyscraper screamed the agency's potential way it carried itself, but the heroes that met them in the lobby didn't display the same satisfaction. Scowls formed on each of their faces as they gazed upon Dabi's mug. Still, he tried to carry himself as best as he could, eyes wandering around as he took his first look inside of Hawks' workplace. Hawks waved a few, but they shielded away to go back to work. They didn't seem to bother the hero. His smile, permanent, echoed onto his face as he headed up to his office. Dabi couldn't fathom how putting on such a facade would benefit him anyway, but the moment he spotted the others tensing, curled shoulders, he understood. He's just holding himself together, trying to save face. Dabi closed the door behind them as they entered Hawks' office. Despite the luxurious mantel desk and matching bookcase, and the beautiful rug that sparred nearly the entire floor, there were a few things that were distinctly Hawks' touch. Pictures of him and his fans were littered with the walls, hung by simple clear tape. His favorite drawings were beside them, right beside a growing pile of presents. They were arranged from stuffed animals to jewelry. Amongst the pile was one unopened box, which Hawk quickly scooped up. He read the label, then grinned, and threw it over the ex-villain. "This is for you. You can go to the bathroom and try it." Dabi eyed the label. Hawks had turned it into his hero costume a while ago, but he didn't expect it to come in so soon. He glanced at the door, frowning, as he reached for the handle. Hawks hadn't stopped him, as he hoped, and he was soon wandering the halls of the agency. It was uncomfortable, to say the least. It felt wrong to be in such a place. He was wearing fresh clothes straight out of the dryer. He had showered that morning and smelled like some weird strawberry concoction after accidentally grabbing one of Remy Shampoo's bottles she had left at some point or another. Hawks apologized and offered to spray him down with Axe, but Dabi refused. In short, he was clean. It wasn't like he was just walking in from off the streets. So why did he feel so dirty? That this all was untouchable, just some fever dream. He was never meant to be a hero, so why was his throat tightening so strangely? He dunked into the bathrooms the moment he found the sign. They were empty, so he changed quickly. It fit almost perfectly, which was to be expected since he already knew all his measurements by heart. After all, it was easier than twice constantly holding tape up to him whenever a clone needed to be made. However, the clothes around his stomach was a bit tighter than expected. He didn't look weird, but it was an odd reminder that he was well fed. His ribs were beginning to fade from where they once jutted uncomfortably. After changing, he drew his pants and jacket back over and rushed back to Hawks. If one of the heroes saw him like that, he didn't want to know what they'd say. He wasn't in his element, he didn't want to fight right now, and they looked like tigers ready to shred him to bits. Then again, he is a killer. The furthest thing from being a hero. "You're back. Great, Hawks paused and stared at Dabi. He unzipped his jacket, and the wing hero beamed, watching as a man took off his street clothes to reveal the hero costume. "It fits. That's good. What do you think?" "It's different. I don't know how to feel like, but it works, right?" Dabi replied as he tugged at some of the mediocre fabric. The designers must have known who they were creating it for. At least they didn't add anything extra to it, like an embroidered patch of an indecent nickname. "Yeah, you look more, I don't know, hero-y? It'll be perfect since you're doing hero work today." Hawks clasped his hands together. The winged hero crossed the room to his desk and began booting up his laptop. He plopped into a seat, swinging around once. "I'm going to take this off until we're heading out," Dabi announced, heading back to the door for another nerve-wracking visit to the bathroom. "Actually, you aren't working with me today." Dabi paused and turned to face the hero. He was already immersing himself into his work, the stacks of papers beside his desk overwhelmingly high. Either way, Hawks must have been relieved to see they still gave him a ton of work, especially since the bills began to come up. Hawks did little to hide his nerves, constantly picking at his wings. Feathers littered the ground more than ever. and Dabi kept slipping them on and cracking his head against countertops. Though not all was bad because Hawks would then fuss over him instead of worrying over his job all day long. Quietly, Dabi sat down on the ground near the desk, his hands tracing over the designs of his hero costume. It reminded him of his villain outfit, but that was the intention. Not that it was any of Hawks' business, but the outfit wasn't created by him entirely. He used the memory of Yuma's drawing, the child that had gotten him in the middle of all this mess, as a base again. After all, he was the first one to ever see him as a potential hero. Well, Hawks could have been, but Hawks didn't draw him a picture while Dabi was in jail. In result, Dabi leached off the little kid's vision, so he didn't have to exert energy into making his very own creation. He wasn't a hero for himself either. His heroics, as Hawks talked about, was never for him. It was for the children. For the children's good, for the mothers and fathers. Speaking of fathers, 30 minutes in of Dabi staring at a wall in boredom, Endeavor walked into the office in full hero attire. Dabi sent Hawks a look, but the hero didn't even seem to notice the mountain of a man entering, too absorbed in his work. Toya. Endeavor. Dabi replied evenly as he stood. Reluctantly, he met the taller man's gaze. Blue eyes. Are you ready to go? The man asked, and Dabi nodded, leaving his street clothes on the ground in a neat pile. He left the room without a word to Hawks. He could feel his hands twitching spontaneously as he stared at Endeavor as he guided him out of the building. Oh, how easy it would be to launch a blast right into such an unsuspecting target. But no, not now. He'd be outnumbered easily, and Hawks would exit alive. For now, he was set on seeing the gigantic scar that covered almost half of the man's face. Now they were both disfigured. Because of all of your field experience, I managed to get your training's license. You may use your quirk for hero work, so long as you are accompanied by Hawks or I. Endeavor handed him a card. Dabi slipped it into his pocket without looking at it. He gestured to his hands, and Endeavor took out a key, releasing him from his brackets around his wrists and then his ankles. Hawks used to be very cautious about releasing him, but since the purse incident, he would readily unlock him for training or when Dabi wanted to walk around the apartment without the extra weights. Dabi read his reddening hands, happy to be relieved of the extra pounds. Neat. It shouldn't be too long when you won't be needing to see these again. After work today, we have to go somewhere where they will ask you questions and you will answer them. About the league? Dabi drawled, frowning. I can't imagine what else. Working with the Flame Hero was different from Hawks. Instead of being accompanied by someone who seemed relaxed and even content to be in the presence of his old ally, he was stuck with a man who didn't seem to know the meaning of a break. He just kept walking, and waiting for something to jump out at him that needed solving. No one stopped him for autographs or threw things at him like they did with the Birdman, but that didn't mean they weren't giving glares at him in disdain. Then again, it could be that he was, besides a fake hero, since the entire main bustling roads of the city, Dabi kept his eyes to the ground as he moved. Sure, he looked like a hero, but that was it. He wasn't going to pretend the outfit was anything more stupidly designed disgusting. Citizens didn't hesitate to try and trip him, or even toss trash or half-eaten food at him. Was it like this for Endeavor when he wasn't around? Or was this special treatment reserved for Hawks and him? I need a smoke, he finally announced after watching a mother usher 2 children away from 2 heroes. Henji sighed in exasperation, as though he had asked him more than once. He relented, though, allowing the villain to sneak into a dark alley, out of sight, out of all the prying public's eyes. Dabi pressed against the brick wall and slid into the dirty, garbage-riddled ground. He reached for a cigar in his pocket, but stopped as he heard someone lurking further back in the alley. I need you to quiet down, the man said in a voice that dripped like honey. It sounded off, given his voice was that of an electric beast, gravelly and disgusting. My mom is looking for me, a younger boy insisted, voice quivering a little. I need to go find her. She doesn't like me talking to strangers. Oh, hell no. Dabi set his cigar back into his pocket, bumping his plastic hero card as he did. Silently, he crept further down the alley until he found them. They didn't seem to notice him there. Surprising, they were both recognizable. The older man was a hench of the League, someone disposable. But the kid? It was Yuma. The kid who had handed in getting him arrested personally. But here he was, struggling to get his wrists from the goon. How much trouble could one little kid get into? Let go of the kid, Dabi announced as he stepped forward. The man jumped at the sudden movement, then narrowed his eyes, dragging the kid closer. At this point, Yuma began to cry, jerking wildly to be released. While Dabi wasn't usually a thinker, he knew that if he allowed his flames to charge towards the man like he wanted, Yuma would be burned as well. He'd have to gain more control over his quirk before he'd attempt something like that. You betrayed the League. You're trying to doom us all, the man shouted, pointing a finger toward his chest. Have you forgotten all we have worked for? What we have fought for? I haven't forgotten, Dabi replied evenly, eyes flickering around the alley for anything to use. I just never was a fan of it. The man cursed at him, then began to jam Yuma away towards himself once more. Beat it. Scene with me, scene with a villain. What would the media do? The kid is coming with me. Dabi froze as he spotted something. Turning back to the villain, he slowly dropped down to a knee. He hesitated as he stared at the grimy floor. He hated how he couldn't formulate a better plan. But what the man said was true. He couldn't let him go, or else the public would know. He had to wrap this up quickly and make sure Yuma didn't get hurt. So, he slowly brought his other knee to the gravel, hovering both of his hands on the ground as he bowed his head lowly, peeking through his bangs. Please, let him go. Yuma stared at him, tears welling up in his eyes, as the man cracked. What the hell? Look what being a hero gets you. You are all so willing to give up like this? Or were you just pulling my leg when you said the League was behind you? Dabi closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He placed a foot down, forcing it awkwardly against the ground as his hands darted to the side, grabbing broken bottles laying on the ground less than 2 feet away. He pushed himself up as fast as he could, forcing the end of the bottle, sharp and dangerous, straight to the villain's neck. Let him fucking go. Yuma stumbled away the moment the man released his wrist, hiding behind Dabi. He could feel the kid tugging at his coat, but he didn't move his eyes from the villain as the grip tightened on the bottle. It'd be so easy to kill him, slash his neck open, or burn him alive. He deserved it too. Who'd try to kidnap a kid? Eyes narrowing, he began to jug the bottle forward, but his arms were encased by a larger hand and held at bay. That is enough. As the cops poured in, Yuma danced beside Dabi, who was searching for his mother in the crowd. Yuma didn't seem to mind much about the separation, instead chatting wildly as he ran around in circles around him and tugged at his costume. Mr. Hero, I was trying to tell my friends about you, but I couldn't find you online. You were so cool just then. I was so scared, but you came in and was like, BAM! Yeah, it was cool. Dabi replied, dismissively, searching the crowd. He glanced back to Endeavor, who was explaining the situation to the police. Hopefully one would come over soon to take Yuma home. His mother was nowhere in sight. Hey! Yuma called, tugging Dabi's jacket even more. Sighing, he knelt down to face the boy as he beamed. Are you All Might? Dabi couldn't fathom, to begin, where the kid had gotten that from. All Might was twice his age, had a completely different color scheme, and was buffer. That, and he was retired. So, that added to his confusion. No. Are you Midnight? Is this kid just sprouting off any name he's heard? Are you Hawks? Yeah, this kid had no clue. Dabi shook his head. No, I'm a new hero. Dabi explained. I haven't really decided on a name. I had an idea, but I don't think it'll work. What about Stitchface? Dabi wasn't regretting talking to this kid. He was about to possibly say something rude back, but was stopped as he heard his villain name called out. He turned in time to see Hawks flying towards him, landing perfectly a foot away. He threw Dabi into an uncomfortable tight hug, beaming ear to ear. Look at you, Mr. Big Shot. You did a great job, Hawks explained, pulling away. The look in his eyes made Dabi shrink back a little. It was so fond, so happy. It was bizarre. He was relieved when the winged hero bent down and waved to Yuma. Hey, remember me? Yuma gasped and tugged Hawks. Comedy Woods! Yep. Hawks hummed, hugging him back. As he let go, a woman approached. She ignored Dabi and thanked Hawks profusely for finding her son. Yuma tried to talk to her about the other hero, but she only sent a glare Dabi's way. Was she waiting in the crowd until Dabi wasn't near Yuma so she could get her son? Frowning, Dabi put his hands in his pockets and headed back to the cops to trail behind Endeavor, pressuring him to finish his work quicker. Yuma waved him a goodbye, and he sent one as well, trying to twitch a smile onto his lips. It fell when his eyes turned back towards his mother. Hawks waved them off, then marched over to where Dabi was, finally enjoying his cigar from earlier. So, I heard from Endeavor that you have a temper problem? Dabi didn't reply, so Hawks continued, leaning beside him against the wall. They received many looks, but Hawks didn't seem to mind. We will have to work on that. That is probably the biggest difference between heroes and villains. The law comes first. That means no killing or severely injuring them if it can't be helped, you know? Stupid law. You could be a vigilante or something if you want. Hawks offered. You'd be able to do all that and call yourself a hero. But I'd have to take you down. No thanks. Dabi mumbled. He could only imagine waking up one night with Hawks on top of him, forcing cuffs on his wrists, as he chided him for killing a villain. He'd prefer to sleep. It still stands, Hawks teased. Endeavor walked over to them soon after. Aren't you supposed to be working? Endeavor asked, not too kindly. Hawks paled a little, but nodded his head. I wanted to check it out. See him in action. I called you about that after the fight. Hawks looked away. Cheeks dusted red as he scratched his neck awkwardly. I was worried. Hawks replied. Before Endeavor could say that he also mentioned everyone was fine while they were on the phone, the hero took to the sky with a simple, I have to go before they notice. I'm gone. Have fun. Dabi stared at his retreating form, watching until he was completely gone before turning to Endeavor. Snuffling out his cigar, he turned to him. So, what now? Now, we're done for the day. I asked off early, so let's go. Dabi rolled his eyes at the vague description of their next task, but he followed the hero anyways. As he moved, he didn't look to the crowds of citizens or the ground, but to the sky. Perhaps he'd be able to catch a glimpse of something, even if what he wanted to see wasn't there. Okay, alright. I actually had fun with that one. That one was super nice. I had fun. My head hurts. I've had a massive headache, and I do not know if that's because I'm getting sick, because my family has slowly been getting sick. If that is me getting sick, if that is my sleep schedule finally getting to me, it could be a combination of all. Either way, my head hurts lately, and I fear what that means. It also could just be I haven't been drinking enough water or eating enough, but I don't think it's that. I've been eating every day and I've been drinking water every day, so it can't be that. Could it just be my sleep schedule thing? Okay, it could just be that. Okay, anyways, this is super cute. Yuma, you need to stay indoors, Yuma. Also, when the little kid called Hawks Comedy Woods, I lost it. That was such a cute moment. I loved it so much. It was so adorable. Okay, chapter 6 is It Will Take Patience. Endeavor is doing what he can for his family, and Dabi gets a first-hand look at it. While Dabi is dealing with being a part of a family again, Hawks has his own troubles. So I wonder the troubles with Hawks. Also, I mean, shipping-wise, I wonder if we're going to be seeing... I'm seeing a lot of subtle hints now. I mean, Dabi looking to the sky, trying to see if he could see Hawks, knowing that he won't. Hawks coming in because he was worried, and then leaving. That fawn look he got. I'm telling you, it's all there. The groundwork is being placed brick by brick, and I am here for every single one of those. I am so excited to see that, you know?
I love Hot Wings. Hot Wings is so... It's a really cute ship with really cool dynamics that I always love seeing. Hero x villain are always one of the dynamics that I love so much. It's why Toka Choco is top of my list of ships that I like as well.
So, I'm so excited to see the rest of this. As always, my marine jobs, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.